All right, today we are talking about the 2-5-1 chord progression. For the rest of these modules, we're going to be looking at some of the most common chord progressions that show up in popular music throughout the centuries, and just sort of highlighting those and seeing where you can hear those. So the first one we're going to look at is the 2-5-1, which really has its foundation in jazz music, in the Great American Songbook, etc. Before we dive into it, I just want to give us a quick review on how we come up with these numbers and why this one is lowercase and these ones are uppercase, etc., etc. So when you are looking at your traditional major scale, we're going to go with C major here. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? So that's our what we're used to. Now, on top of each one of these scale degrees, we could give them numbers now. We could call this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then that's 1 again, really. But we could build a triad. So on top of C would be C, E, G. On top of D would be D, F, A. On top of E, etc., etc. So now we have these triads, these chords, that are built on each one of the scale degrees of this major scale. Okay, so these are where these numbers come from. We just happen to use Roman numerals. So for example, this, let's get another color in here. So this is the 1 chord. And this is the 4 chord, and this is the 5 chord. These are the 4 most common chords that you hear in most music. You can go 1, 4, 5, well there's 5, and then 1, right? So this is something that shows up in all of music. These all happen to be major, and so they get this uppercase, the uppercase Roman numeral instead of the lowercase. The other ones that we tend to deal with here that are the most common are the 2, the 3, it's getting there, and then the 6. And these are all minor, right? So there's our 2 chord, and here's our 3 chord, and then here's our 6 chord, also minor. The 7 chord is special because it's a diminished triad. So it gets lowercase and a little circle that tells us that it's diminished. So these are where we get these from. And there are very specific patterns that we are used to hearing in a lot of our music. There are expectations about where we expect things to go. One of our favorites, right? Is just 1, 6, 4, 5, 1, right? The one I played for you before is the 1, 4, 5, 1, right? So these are all chord progressions that we're used to hearing. And by giving them Roman numerals, instead of going by the names of the letters, we're able to establish these patterns no matter what key we're in. If we went to a new key, for example, if we went to D major, just because it's the next one, it would be D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. So even though our note names have changed, the 1 chord still sounds the same. Same with the 4, and then the 5. So they sound the same even though they're in a different key. There it is in C, there it is in D, right? So now that we have these Roman numerals, instead of dealing with chord symbols or letter names, we're able to identify patterns no matter what key we happen to be in. So now we're going to talk specifically about the 2-5-1 chord progression. And this is one that shows up in, like I said before, this is the one that shows up primarily in vocal jazz. And the reason is because it's a pattern that can work pretty consistently. So let's say we're in the key of G major, right? So G major, we can have it would be a G. Oh, sorry, nope, that's the 251. So A, there we go. I got distracted there for a second. So we would have an A minor chord. Sometimes we'd add a 7 to it. Jazz tended to add a lot of 7s. And then this would be our D7 chord. And then we'd have our G major chord. But what's fun, and this is particularly why jazz musicians like this, is that then we could take this G major chord and we could turn it into a G minor chord. I should do that. There we go. G minor chord. And now we're kind of functioning in the key of F major, and we could do another 2, 5, 1. So G minor, and then a C7, C major 7, and then we'd be down to the F chord. So we're able to sort of get these patterns that are a little bit just a little bit more fun. So let's do that. So here's our G minor chord. Here, I'll do it down there. There we go. So G, and then we'll do our C7, and then we'll go down to F. But then from here, we could turn that F into an F minor 7. Sorry, I just had to think for a second there. And then, so F minor 7 is now the 2, and then B flat, and that takes us down to E flat. So part of the fun, and particularly why musicians liked this, is because they were able to create these chains of chords, and they could wander around the entire circle of fifths if they wanted to be able to have that happen. Now, when you're listening for this in music, what you're going to want to listen for is that pattern in the bass, right? So if we're in the key of C, we're going to hear, right? So that 2, 5, 1, and then it could keep going. It could keep on meandering down as long as it wanted to down in that bass line. But that's what you're looking for. Now, one song that gives us a really great example of this is a piece by Tony Hatch called Call Me. And I'm just going to play and sing a little bit of it for you. But here's the chord progression. So it's a G major, and it goes for a while. And then we get, so G major is technically the key we're in, and then immediately he starts to go away from that. We have a G minor 7, which would be our 2, and then that goes to the C7, which would be our 5, and then down to F major, the 1. Then we stay there for a little bit, and then right away, he takes this and makes it a minor F7, which is our new 2 now, and then up to B flat for our 5, and then down to E flat major. So you can hear a nice progression. Right? So we sort of get this function. And then if I were to add the melody to it, if you're feeling sad and lonely, there's a service I can render. Tell me one who loves you only. I can be so warm and tender. Call me. And then it goes on from there, and it doesn't do the 2-5-1 anymore. But you can hear how Tony's able to create this nice smooth chord progression that allows us to meander through lots of different colors and lots of different directions. So this is really what the 2-5-1 does for us. You will hear it in all sorts of music. You can Google online and say, what are good songs that have 2-5-1 chord progressions, and listen for them. Remember that it's pretty rare for a song to just go, just to go 2-5-1 over and over again. Sorry, let me do that better. There it is. sometimes you'll hear that, but to just do the same 2-5-1 over and over again gets a little bit boring. Usually what they'll do is take that 1 and then turn it into the 2 of the next cycle. So do some listening, see what you can find out there, and have fun.